Hey, welcome to the Creative Marketing Cut, where we slice through the boring to bring out the brilliant. I'm your host, Evan Renfro, here to navigate you through the maze of marketing, creativity, and strategy. Our goal is to pack every episode with invaluable insights and practical takeaways for those of you who are ready to apply these tips. We'll skip past the industry stale dry jargon and uncover the crafty and creative side of marketing. And no, this isn't just a marketing podcast for those that are obsessed with marketing. This is for those of you who want a few tips on how to use it. Hey, Jodi, thanks so much for taking the time to chat today and coming on the Creative Marketing Podcast, Creative Marketing Cut Podcast. I wanted to kind of just take a minute to let you introduce yourself and share a bit about your background and what got you into what you're doing today.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Jodi Sedini. I'm the owner of Sedini Marketing, and my agency is like an unagency, Facebook ads unagency for integrity-driven online business owners, like coaches, course creators, service providers, SaaS providers. So literally my business exists to put more money in the hands of those business owners. And just to speak about my backstory a little bit, I was a paramedic and firefighter for 13 years, which does come in handy because like pressure under fire, right? Like I thrive in a very pressure filled environment, which is great for running an ads agency. So then I worked as a virtual assistant for like a local brick and mortar VA agency. I transitioned home, started my own business in 2014. So 10 years ago, this month, because it was right around the time when my almost 11-year-old turned 1, is when I started my business. I was like done missing his life. So I needed to be home. I replaced my income in like 2 months because I went from making $10 an hour, 40 hours a week to I was charging $40 an hour.
Yeah.
And then like all I had to do was work 10 hours a week. So after that, I started investing in my business by joining like masterminds. I hired a coach, learning about marketing, and I transitioned more into like that marketing tech VA. And that led me into the world of Facebook ads. So from there, I grew a team of 17 team members with a 7-figure business. And I had a business partner that was kind of a pretty toxic relationship. So I left that in July of 2021. I actually went back to working full-time as an employee for a couple of different agencies. And the employee life is not for me. I will say that. I am a true entrepreneur and I couldn't be held back. I relaunched my business, and when people got word of that, it was insane. The referrals came, and I was at the same level as I had been in my previous business within just a matter of months, just simply because of word of mouth and referrals. So that's who I am and how I got to where I am now.
What a journey. That's exciting. It's
A little
awesome to
bit.
hear. There are kind of lessons, I'm sure, within that journey that
Yeah.
maybe catapulted you to the next phase, next season. I'm curious because, and I want to get into what you do on kind of a service side of things now. But before we dive too heavily into that world, tell me a little bit about like what do you think were some of the common maybe components or factors that allowed you to achieve such consistent and great success early on?
Oh, so I can tell you that I think the biggest um, factor in the trajectory of my business was not over-promising and under-delivering. I noticed that in my former business partnership that there was a whole lot of like pie in the sky projections and look what you have to do to make $1 million in this funnel and we can help you do that. And I had a real hard time buying into that belief. But it was happening as part of the company that I was part of. And so I feel horribly for some of the relationships and the things that happened with that company. I've since made amends with a lot of those people, and they actually are my clients now. But one of the, like I said, the biggest factor is I'm not over promising and under delivering. I have learned that I need to under promise and over deliver. And so when I'm making projections for clients, when I'm telling them about my services and what I do, I'm very like conservative. I want to be very conservative and say like this is the minimum. My hope is that we would see much better. But I don't want to give you this pie in the sky projection and then have it fail and you think that marketing doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
That's great. It's always better to exceed expectations rather than kind of, come in
yeah,
significantly lower than what was hoped for. That's
yeah,
awesome. I know, and we'll kind of get into the advertising side of things and kind of your marketing approach now. But I mean, you had success, like pretty significant success early on. Um, Building out your business, obviously, you mentioned word of mouth, referrals. I'm assuming that kind of comes with what you just shared about really setting the expectation uh, to not really overpromise anything, but you're
right.
fulfilling on the back end to really do everything in your power and everything in your control to make sure that they're getting the results that they would
Yeah.
hope for.
It's
So obviously,
interesting too.
yeah.
Sorry. It's interesting too is that like one of the things that my clients say that they love about working with me and that sets me apart is that they know that I truly care.
Hmm.
And that's why I have to work with people who I'm aligned with. I don't say that to be like discriminatory towards, like woo
Yeah.
woo business owners because I don't align with that. So if I can't get behind what you're selling and I can't align with you, like it's hard for me to come in and support you as that
Yeah.
partner. And so I've redefined who my like ideal client is. And then it's really having that in common really sets the tone for the relationship.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah, like I said, like there's something to be said for that degree of success that you've had and how consistent it's been, through having a business, restarting a business, and then now what you've been able to scale and help others to do. It's like
Mhm.
it's multifaceted. I'm sure there's a ton of
It is.
nuance in like the technical side of it, but at the core of it, at how you show up and
Mhm.
the way you serve, like that seems to be a common thread. And yeah, there's always a lesson there. And I was curious what that thing
Yeah.
was. And I
Yeah.
mean that it makes a ton of sense. That
Mhm.
it's really like I view what I do. It's like I'm privileged and blessed to be able to work with those that trust me with the service I provide for
Oh, yeah.
them. So if you wear it that way, it's like, of course, you're going to do everything you can to help them succeed.
Yeah. And I don't know how if you know about the Enneagram or if that's something that you've paid attention to at all, but I am like straight up and down Enneagram 8 and integrity is like a core driver for me.
Yeah.
So I think that's why like my former business partnership felt so out of alignment because it did not feel like it was in integrity because
Yeah.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
But now I'm operating my business in full integrity, full transparency, full accountability, like radical accountability with clients. If I say I'm going to do something, then I freaking do it.
That's good.
And if I'm giving them projections, like we hustle our butts to make sure that we are hitting those
Yeah.
numbers because I'm, like I said, giving them like minimum viable numbers. And so, of course, we should be able to hit that. So, the integrity to the core is a huge, huge one for me.
That makes a ton of sense. And I love that because I mean, I don't want to, tear down other buildings to make ours bigger, but it's easy, you flip through your feed for 30 seconds and you can see the over promising, all hype. And
Oh yeah.
I'm not surprised that it's easy to be, led into one of those. And obviously, whenever it's something that's not performing and not providing what's expected, it is void of that, right? It doesn't have the
Mhm.
integrity. It doesn't have
Yeah.
the depth of connection and alignment. So it's
Yeah.
great that that's the foundation. Kind of shifting into a little bit more of the tactical side of things, because um, I, if this is how you navigate what you do, right, it makes sense. And it would be safe to say that that's how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So how you're going to fulfill on these things is likely aligned with what we said, with the integrity
Mhm.
and with the care and the resonance and the empathy that you have for the people that you work with. Let's talk a little bit. Let's go into the hood and talk a little bit about the tactics. So you do advertising, you do
Yeah.
Facebook ads, you work with businesses to really I'm assuming help optimize and improve. And maybe sometimes they're doing okay, they could do better. Maybe other times they're not doing anything at all. Like, what are some of the things that you feel work best, kind of that are in your tool belt?
Okay. For sure. I can talk about that.
Yeah,
So, I always, when I start with a client, we are diving in and looking at the history of their ad account, and we want to see like trends. What have they tried? What has worked well? What hasn't worked well? We look at audiences, we look at copy, we look at creatives, we look at cost, and we do a whole audit and figure out like where are the opportunities here. That it like shines a light on all of the opportunities, and that's why I mean, if you scroll like my feed, my profile or whatever, you'll see like client case studies and quick success wins and things like that. That audit alone is so responsible for so much of that, because I'll go in there. Well, one of my team members will go in there and like pull the audit. I'll review it and I'm like, they're not putting ads to any warm audiences at all. And there's zero retargeting. Let's set that up first. And so we'll go set that up, and then like everything's profitable in, like a week. And I'm
Yeah.
like, cha-ching, like, there we go, we win. And it blows my mind that gets missed sometimes. And, whether they're coming from another agency or they've been running them themselves, or they've got like a media buyer in-house, there tends to be areas of opportunity in every single account that we look at. So that's the huge part as far as the tactical is going in, pulling the ad account, and then finding out like, what are we going to do next? So
That's great. It's like, you know which lever to pull, right? Like you go in and kind of evaluate, because you have, your whole bag of tricks, and not all of them are necessary at any given time, but it's like, okay, hey, this applies to this, or like, hey, the best fit, you guys aren't really maximizing your creative, or your copy could use some work, and you know exactly which lever it is to pull. Like,
Yep. And which metric tells me,
exactly.
like if our CPMs are too high, which is, for those listening, if you don't know, CPM means cost per mil, or it's like how much it costs to get your ad in front of 1,000 people. And if that's too high, that means that your audience targeting could be off, or you're completely missing the mark with your copy and creatives. And if that's the case, like, you've got to go back to the drawing board. It's too high to get in front of those people because somebody else is outbidding you that's connecting with your audience.
Yeah, it's working. So, well, I kind of put the cart before the horse there. I was going to ask you, what do you say to those that push back a little bit and say, hey, we've tried Facebook ads, we've tried marketing, it just doesn't work for us. It's your favorite thing
Oh,
to hear, right?
no, it makes me cringe. So I have a core belief. Number one, that marketing always works. It's not a matter of if it can work, right? And I literally mean like any funnel. Any funnel can work, can be successful with Facebook ads. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Now, what that might look like is, getting ads set up to it and looking at the stats. Let's look at the ad stats. Let's make sure that, our click-through rates are good, our cost per click is good. All of those stats are good. All right, we've got traffic going to the funnel. How is the funnel converting? Is it at or above industry standards? If not, what can we optimize? And then from there, it's just continuously like looking at the data, optimizing it, making sure that every single dollar that we spend on ads is used intentionally to get that funnel working. Like, that's the biggest point. So it might feel like it's not working, but if you have patience
Yeah.
and a little something I call risk tolerance, then you can play that long game and watch that funnel work. So
That's beautiful. Beautifully said. I share that, right? And I'm partial, very biased, obsessed with marketing, and it does work. I mean, saying marketing doesn't work would be the same as saying like communication doesn't work in my mind. It's like,
oh
right? Like,
yeah.
it just communicate better, right? Market better. And better might mean more effectively, or more, like I said, in a more targeted
Right.
approach, or just be more efficient with things. What about someone who's not doing paid ads? If they're just trying to maximize and optimize their organic, is there some strategy that you would kind of encourage them to use, or an approach that they should take?
So, well, first I would ask, like, why are you not using paid ads? I think everyone should be using paid ads. But if they're just using organic, and let's say, they're getting good traction with organic and their funnel's working and their business is doing okay, like, why should they start ads? Because ads amplify what's working. And so if you add that other layer in of paid traffic, now it doesn't mean that you have to start off with, 4, 5, 10 grand a month in your ads budget. Even if you take a small budget and retarget your warm audience to something to get them on your email list, or to, come back and sign up for the webinar for like your high ticket launch that you're about to, release. You don't have to have a huge budget in order to make Facebook ads effective. So I would say if you're doing organic and it's doing all right, it's time to pour some fuel on that fire and just make it go better.
That's good. Yeah. Because by that point, you've probably at least ironed out your messaging and your audience, and to some
Yeah.
capacity, maybe you're creative in your copy. So yeah, it's like you said, you're amplifying that. You're adding that fuel to the already targeted fire. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's go a little bit more granular. I want to kind of hear, I know you work with specific types of clients, so be as specific as you need to be if there's a case
Okay.
study or an example you need to use. But tell me what sets you apart with your process, because there is no shortage of, options with Facebook ads, whether it's an agency or, just an individual or a small team, uh, unlimited options, kind of like realtors, right? Everyone is one. But tell
Yeah.
me a bit about what separates your approach.
So I would say I don't know, it's a handful of things. So I fall under the category of an agency because it's not just me. I'm not a freelancer, and I'm not just a Facebook ads expert or a coach. I have a team, and that's because I can do it all myself. I've realized that I'm not the best one to be doing it all myself. Um, so I've hired a team of experts, of media buyers. I have a creative director, graphic designer, copywriter, video editor. And so to think I could do that all by myself is kind of crazy. However, when a client comes to work with us, one of the biggest things that they have noticed to be different is that we are not just treating them like a number. A lot of ad agencies, they're scaling to be so big that they, like, the person who's selling you the thing is not even the person that's involved at all. Like, you may never even talk to them at all. The agency owner may not even be part of the delivery of this service. And I refuse to ever go down that path. I stay on as the lead strategist on every single account. I am discussing the account, each account, with my team every single day. And like I said before, like, the level of care and concern just completely sets it apart. So, I mean, in talking about like a case study or something, my client, Michelle, she came from another big agency that was like, her dream was to work with this big agency. And I kid you not, they were 10 grand a month
Hmm.
just for like agency and copy and creatives. And so, first of all, when she came to work with me, that was an instant like return on investment because I'm not 10K a month. So I'm like, sweet, we're profitable just by coming to work with me. But she said, I think it's not working because like they're putting my ads in a box, and they have such deep process, and they have SOPs, and they have standard ways of optimizing things. And while that can be efficient, especially if you're trying to do this like at a massive scale like this agency is, it can be efficient, but it's not effective.
Hmm.
And so if you talk about efficiency versus effectiveness, I don't care if it's as efficient or not. I want it to be effective. And so when we took over the account, this was a case where it was 0.85 ROAS when we took it over. And within 12 days, we were at about a 3 ROAS. And it had a lot to do with how I handled her account in a very customized way. She was like, yeah, they're putting this up, and then they let the ad set run, and if it doesn't work, then they're turning it off and trying a new one. And the account was forever in what's called learning phase. And if you never get out of the learning phase, the account's never going to optimize. And so it was just constantly that way. And I'm like, how could a big agency like this have that as their SOP? It does not make any sense to me. Like, I don't know. And then I found out that they typically work with e-com clients, and she was not an e-com client. She's a course creator, selling through a slow funnel. And I was like, well, that's it. They were trying to treat your account like an e-com account, and it just wasn't working. So, and she's like, yeah, but they were telling me like that's how they have to do it. I was begging them to do it differently, and they wouldn't. I'm like, I've got you.
Yeah.
I will do it.
It's a night and day in just the difference. Like, I mean, I'm hearing a bunch of things that, like, to one, the previous agency, like there's a lot of red flags. Like that's just the way we do things. Take it or leave it. And in the process, we're going to charge you an obscene amount of money to not get you
Yeah.
results.
And
Not a
they
great
wouldn't let
business
her out
model.
of her contract either. I
Oh,
was like,
yikes.
that's yucky.
All
Like,
the red flags. And then, in your approach, like the complete opposite of that. It's like, hey, how can we personalize this to best fit your needs? Yeah, to me, like it's as simple as the approach that you mentioned, that you want to make sure you're aligned with everyone you work with and that you have the integrity in the way that you serve them. And then everything that you do is built around like it's them. It's tailored to fit
right,
them. It's
right.
professional, personal, catered, tailored to them. So yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I love that approach a lot. I'm curious, excuse me, like when someone is kind of considering this, if they're kind of kicking the tires on Facebook ads, right? They've tried some other things. Maybe they've done fairly well with some organic. Maybe most of their business is from referrals, but they know they need to really break through kind of where they're currently at, and they can't really do that continuing with their current methods. Like, what's kind of the approach that you would take to kind of give them that peace of mind and assurance that what you do will be aligned with, like, with their brand and the things that are important to them, while still being
Yeah.
able to maybe change and maybe grow into the next phase? What's that look like?
Okay, so a couple things I want to address with that. And one would be that I have a creative director. And so as far as like making sure that it's cohesive with their brand, we do a whole intake process and then send back to them. We mirror back to them of like, do we have that? Do we have a full understanding of how you speak, your messaging, your brand, your like your voice, your offers? Is all of this right? And so we make sure that we're on the same page there. That way we can produce copy creatives and things like that that are all in alignment with the brand. Now, when it comes to like the success, that's where my projections come in. So I have an amazing KPI projections calculator for almost any type of funnel that you can think of. Self-liquidating offers going into a membership, self-liquidating offers going to a mid-ticket or high-ticket thing, free plus shipping book funnels, like you name it, I've got a calculator for it. And what I would do if they had been doing stuff organically is take that data and pop it into the calculator and say, if ads to cold traffic do as well as your organic stuff that you've been doing, this is what that could look like. If you spend this much money, you could make this much money. However, we know it's probably not going to convert the same. And so let's dial down the conversion rate a little bit, and understand that it's a long game, that people will probably opt in. And then, let's say it's a book a call for a high ticket thing. It may be 30, 60, 90 days before they'll book a call or buy from you, because you've got to build that trust. So we'll say, all right, this is what it could be. Let's dial it back a little bit, make sure that we have really decent, like reasonable expectations, and understand that the journey to make that profitability happen might be a little bit longer than just 30 days. And then we layer in something that I call always on retargeting. And so that means that anybody, especially if we're talking high ticket, anybody who opts in for like a webinar or whatever, of course, we want to retarget them to get them to book a call. But then I want that person's face to show up in their feed everywhere with that credibility, likability, trust, like all of those things that, like, you can't get on Facebook without seeing my face if you've gone to my website. Sorry, but that is what it is, because I'm out there like making sure that that you don't forget who I am. I don't want you to forget about me, and I want to like build more trust. I want you to have I want you to see the credibility and likability, like I want to make that connection. So, yeah, we build that in as well.
That's great. I mean, you touched on a couple of things that I think, and you've done such a great job of like not just speaking to the analytics and like the metric side of it. You did keep it like it's objective focused, but it's like, passion and purpose driven, right? And it's where those two kind of meet, and I guess where that cohesive grouping is that kind of seems to navigate the way you
Hmm.
approach client work. And it's great because you're not just this massive only looking at the numbers, and it's a
Right.
volume game, right? Because the person that ultimately, they're trusting whoever they choose, whether it's marketing, advertising, creative, whatever modality, and maybe the combination of the whole. But that's their baby, right? That's the thing that
Yeah.
they've poured everything into for years. So it does take a
Yep.
good bit of trust, and you can tell that you've built that foundation. And
Mm.
then the other thing is I love that, like, I mean, that's good marketing 101 is like be everywhere, right? So if your face could be in front of them all the time, they feel like they know you and you built that
Yeah.
rapport.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. We've talked about the highs. We've talked about the success. We've talked about the wins and your just your strategy and how you can continue to reproduce that. But we know along the way, at some point, there have probably been a couple of challenges.
I was so nervous you were going to go there. No, I'm just kidding. Go
Yeah.
there. It's fine.
No.
Go
Yeah.
there.
Well, it's because I believe that that's where the majority of the lessons are, right? Is in the challenges, in the obstacles. If it's always wins all the time, we only know how to do the thing that's winning, and we can't really learn from something that didn't work as well. So if you have
Mm,
some examples or an example of when things didn't work out so well, what was the challenge and how did you learn from it?
okay. All right. I'm going to lean into that. So my friend Valerie Burton is the founder of the Coaching and Positive Psychology Institute. And I've learned so much from her about looking at those, lows as she calls them growth gaps. And encourages you to look at them as like an opportunity. So I guess I could go, two ways. I could either talk about like where something didn't go well, for a client for results, or like for me in business. What do you want me to talk about?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I shouldn't have asked. I should have just picked a path and went with it. Okay. So, all right, let me talk about client first, because that's easier. So I have a client who we just got to the end of our time with her, and it was that matter of the funnel was converting ish, and she was very, very hesitant to put any more budget into it. So we made projections. We were very conservative, and it wasn't taking off like we thought it would. Um, for every client, we install a free tool called Hotjar, and it creates like heat maps. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all. It gives really good feedback to see like how far people are scrolling, um, and to understand like, all right, where do we need to optimize this page? And so we saw people were not scrolling past the first fold. They were not scrolling past the fold. So we were like, all right, let's focus on the headline. So we updated the headline. Then that page started converting like crazy. Like almost everybody that landed on that page was going to the order form. Okay, sweet. Well, then we saw the order forms not converting well. Like, doggone it. So it was literally like one step at a time where, we optimized the ads, our click through rate, cost per click, everything was great. Got everybody to the sales page, optimized that was great. Got everybody to the order form, and there was the bottleneck, right? So literally it just it's data telling us a story of what's working and what's not. And then we have to make the adjustments based on that. So we actually completely rebuilt the order form in another platform, and the conversion rate did go up. We updated some of the copy, and so it was working. We also changed out the one-time offer on the next step, and that was also converting. It was working. We were like breaking even, but that's not good enough. It's really not. So looking at the data, I was like, I realized that it's a little bit volatile, okay? But if we were to scale up, we'll get people deeper in that funnel. More people will get deeper in that funnel. And then that conversion rate, even if it stays the same, will mean that your profitability goes up. And she was just not in the position, like I talked about, like risk tolerance. She just wasn't in the position to be able to spend more in order to watch the profitability go up. And so we kind of coasted at like a break even for our time together. And, we're working on offboarding her now. So it was super bummer experience because she's a friend and we made a connection. But I know that she saw how hard we hustled and how hard we worked at like every step to get it working. It's frustrating when that happens, but there's lessons in all of that.
Yeah.
So, um, oh, let's see. With myself or like my business where I've had some opportunities, it's been in managing a team. hiring a team, paying a team, right? Like it's a whole nother part of being a CEO when you have a team. It's like I have to show up for these people as the best leader that I can be. I have to set the example of the kind of success that we're going to bring our clients. Um, and I need to like create a culture within my company that people want to be a part of. Um, and it really like it's that balance of, am I ready to hire another person? Or, they ask for a raise and I'm like, you're doing so well, but I can't afford it. Like, but I don't want to lose you. So what do I do to make this happen? And so I would, it's not like a low, but it's a huge area where like it's constant growth and constant evaluation of, um, is this working?
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I
That's
don't know.
great.
Sorry to disappoint you. I don't have like some
No,
major fall on my face failure, but
no, those are great because there's lessons. And I
yeah.
never, I think that, when we exaggerate, what is it? Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story, right? Like when people
Mm,
exaggerate it, that's what gets the clicks, right? So, but I think the reality is, like, what can someone glean from this conversation? What can someone glean from your experience? And like to me, there are
yeah.
several lessons in what you just shared. One, it's like, as painful as it may be, sometimes things just aren't like where you'd want them to be.
Yeah.
um, and y'all did become friends, and y'all did develop a good relationship. And I would also venture to assume that like y'all are still on really good terms and will continue to be on really good terms after she's offboarded. But it's
Hmm.
like you recognize that, okay, again, we're efficient right now, but we're not as effective as we would hope to be. So we're going to have to kind of make this slow break. And to the same point of like, you're sharing about managing a team and running a business, and it's compounded responsibility than if it were without a team. So it's that being said, it's like, it's not this bleak, hopeless situation. It's like, okay, where are there opportunities for us to become like improved in a certain area? Or how
Yeah.
can we retain this talent?
Yeah.
Because we truly are, we're building something great here. And like, maybe you get creative and you get innovative, and you come together and you come up with something that's a collaborative idea that you're both happy
Hmm.
with, and you've got aligned incentives and everybody's happy with the result. So no, I think those are
Yeah.
great lessons.
Yeah. Hmm. Cool. I like that.
Yeah, this is good. That's why I like these conversations with marketers, because there's always something to glean from these types of talks.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, I've got a couple of questions for you. And I want to kind of turn it over to you to let people know where they can dive in a bit more to your content and find out more about you. But the two questions I have, they're kind of two sides of the same coin, right? Um, talk about like where things are going, and this is all projections. We don't know, but we're making an educated guess.
Yeah.
AI, automation, everything kind of going into that world. How does it affect what you do? Does it affect what you do? And then B, like, what can someone be doing, to kind of maybe, I don't want to paint this picture of like doom that some people have, that it's going to replace everything we do. But at the same time, like, from a creative perspective, there are a lot of people relying on it for their creative, and I'll reserve
Yeah.
my opinion. I think it's crap. I'll reserve that opinion. I won't share that.
You didn't reserve it. You
I
just said it.
but yeah, I like, where do you sit in that world? How do you maintain, what you're offering, and how do you prepare for that storm, if you will? And then yeah, what are you doing to encourage and educate clients?
Hmm. Okay. So I think that AI is going to continue to play a role in marketing, but when it doesn't come off as authentic, it's going to raise red flags for people. So I think we're probably in alignment with that. Inside of like Facebook Ads Manager, there's more and more and more and more like AI things happening. Like, let us create new versions of copy for you. And so it'll take like the copy that you put in there for your primary text for the ad and like give you 5 variations and ask you like, do you want to use this? And I'm like, no, you got it all wrong. Like, so luckily it's optional. But then, there's things like Advantage Plus campaigns or Advantage Plus targeting where you're letting the algorithm find the ideal audience. It's always worth testing, in my opinion, because sometimes it hits and sometimes it doesn't. Um, so that's all. It is what it is. I can't stop that. But also, I have a friend who went to Meta headquarters and they gave like a State of the Union and they talked a lot about creatives. Um, and talking about creatives, they said it's not enough to run like 3 variations of an ad with a graphic and somebody's headshot and the headline on the ad, right? Like the words on the ad. Whether I'm, making 3 different poses or whatever, that's not enough. They are asking for the creatives to be like completely different concepts,
Yeah.
which is wild. And saying, you need like gazillions of them. So I think that's where potentially AI could come in handy
Yeah.
of either helping like come up with other creative concepts. Um, right now I have a creative director. Would I replace her with AI? Heck no, because she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I she may or may not use some AI to help come up with ideas. I
Yeah.
don't have like a SOP on that, like don't ever use AI. Um, I can tell you the creatives that we produce, you would never think that AI had any part of it, which is what I want
Yeah.
because I want it to be authentic and real, and not some sort of chat GPT special.
I love that.
Um, that being said, I am also really good at like burying my head in the sand and ignoring things that I really don't want to come to fruition. Um, my hope is that like the rapture happens and we're all in heaven before AI takes over.
Nice. I
Like,
mean, I think, yeah, I don't think either possibility has a higher likelihood, you know. Uh, yeah, no, I'm with you. I see it being a companion more so than just us outsourcing it altogether. Because I think you can tell, like, something reeks of like this was AI produced, right? I think it needs
yeah,
a human in the loop. It needs to be, maybe it's a
yeah,
first rendition, maybe it gets you started. Maybe it gives you a 12 variations of one ideation, and then you can say, no, 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 hey, that one's viable. Let me take that one and make it better, as opposed to
mhm,
like, and the reason I bring it up is because I feel like I see one pop up every day, like a new one where it's all AI. You come in and you create an ad, and it's everything from copy to creative, and it's like click and done. And I'm like, that removes the whole element of what is
yeah,
in my mind needed of the human speaking to a human to provide a service from a human.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's great. I think your perspective on it. Obviously, I'm biased, but I agree.
Well, yeah, well, and so, we're recording here in an app called Riverside, and that's where I record my podcast too. And it's so interesting because that it will like spit out AI like short form videos. So my like marketing assistant, who is also my son, he handles all of that. And so from what I understand, like the AI does a pretty good job of finding decent clips to use in your short form. I like what gets put out on my social media, and like so there are some places where AI
Oh
is
yeah,
useful,
yeah,
and it's not using AI to show up as a human.
yeah,
It's using AI to automate something. So,
exactly. No, I had a podcast earlier for a different topic, a different guest, but he's very much in the automation space, and he is in that world, like deep in that world, and he kind of shared in the same belief that like this isn't to replace, like we're
mm,
trying to use it as tools
mhm.
to help the person only focus on the thing that they do best, and like anything that can be like any of the maybe like redundant tasks can be delegated out to something that's
Yeah.
automated. And something that I have, because I think I may have shared with you, I've been tinkering with this SaaS tool for a while now, and it's intended to be just that, an assistant that's AI partnered, AI companion, but it's more like, if I don't have a team of 8 people in the writing room, and it's just myself in a vacuum trying to work through an idea, it helps to kind of train it on a roll to kind of bounce ideas off. And I may take all these things and, through my curation and editing and elimination, may take something that's 5% of what I got from whatever iteration it was,
Yeah.
but it's at least kind of having that soundboard. And I'm with you. Like I use Riverside, obviously. I found that it's a good partner. It's not a good replacement.
Hmm. I agree.
But that's great. Yeah, like I said, I've seen all these Facebook ads that are 100% AI built, and I was just curious what you're doing to field some of that. But
Yeah.
no, that's been great. I think you shared a ton here. I know there's a ton of like actionable things that you've touched on. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have?
Oh, no, no, we're good.
Great answer. Excellent. So tell people where they can find you. Where's the best place to either connect with you or find out more about your offerings and your service?
For sure. I think really the best way to connect with me is to go follow me on Instagram. So my Instagram handle is Jodi_Sedini. And if you just shoot me a DM, like DM me Evan or something like that, let me know if you came to me from this podcast. That would be so great to know, just so I can understand the context and thank you for sending people my way.
Of course. Yeah, no, you're great at what you do. I think I've been in that world of seeing your targeted ads. So it
Of
works.
course you have.
I can say that it works. Yeah. And like I've been in this world for a while. Like I've been in marketing for a while, and I've seen this is it's very subjective. So take this with a grain of salt. But you can tell when someone shows up and when they present their material, when they're presenting their message, whether it's in copy or a video or whatever the modality is, but especially in video, if it's just like if it's void of that personality and that passion, to me, I can like see it a mile away. But when it's
Mhm.
rich in that passion and that conviction and that care, like it's evident. And that's the kind of thing
Mhm.
that like I always want mine to reflect that. So I'm always
Mhm.
like observant and aware of those that do. And yeah, I can say definitively like the things that I've seen of yours are for sure in that vein.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure. Like I said, you've shared a ton, and I know people can glean something of value from this. So thanks for coming on and taking the time to chat with me. And yeah, I'll link some stuff below where people can get in touch with you. But it's been a pleasure. I've
Awesome.
enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.